As you stand here, standing on that rock, is Governor K. Warren. The Union left at this time under Hancock is anchored in the area of the Pennsylvania marker. At the time Warren arrives here, the only Union troops up here are Lemuel Norton and a score of Signal Corps people. As you're looking northward, you're looking and so Warren is shocked when he arrives here. With him is his brother-in-law, Randall Mackenzie, and several other engineers. Now he is going to realize we have to get men up here as fast as we can. The first of Sykes's men are just starting to arrive. The first of Sykes's men to arrive here will be in Barnes's division. So Warren will either personally ride over, or his brother-in-law representing him, his future brother-in-law, Captain Roebling, and Randall Mackenzie will ride over there to the Devil's Den. There are the first and the nearest available combat troops. Positioned on the high ground beyond the Devil's Den, anchoring the Union left, is Captain Smith's 4th New York Artillery, supported at this time by the 4th Maine. And when they reach there, they will tell Smith to open fire. Now, as we look over there, the Confederates have come out of the woods. There you can see the Bushman Barn. And somewhere near the Bushman Barn, in its orchard, John Bell Hood will be seriously wounded and eliminated from the equation of there. They will then go looking for Mackenzie, and Roebling will go looking for somebody. Then they will go up and they'll run into they'll ride over toward the Emmitsburg Road, the Peach Orchard, and they run into General Sykes. And General Sykes will tell them to go see General James Barnes. Barnes is arriving in the area. At this time that they arrive in the name area, there is the lead is a brigade of General Barnes's division. They would be in the area where you can see the 2nd road coming off the Wheatfield Road, in the edge of the Wheatfield. That is a brigade commanded by that lawyer from Erie, Pennsylvania, Strong Vincent, 29 years old, a graduate of Harvard. And he's as bad a martinet as the worst of West Pointers. He marched the men through the water coming up, and he will go to, and Mackenzie and Roebling will arrive there, and they will talk to Vincent, and they're going to tell Vincent, we need men up on Little Round Top. If they'd gone to Barnes, I don't think any people would be up here. Vincent is not going to check with Barnes. Vincent is going to make the decision himself. And they're in the edge of the woods, in the edge of the wheat field, just beyond where the 2nd road abuts into the field, into the road there, and they're going to tell him we need people up here. Now the west face of Little Round Top had been clear cut in the winter of winter of 1862-63. So there are no woods on the west front of Little Round Top. Also, something else to remember. If Vincent had put his men up here on the crest, on the topographical crest, the Confederates would have kicked their butts off here. He's going to put them on the military crest. The military crest of Little Round Top is over there. What we can see the person in the blue shirt, where you can see the marker particular to the 16th Michigan. When they arrive up there, they're going to take their position there. The military crest is that point on this ridge where you can see the whole slope in front of you. You were in OCS, World War II, and you put your men up here, you would be going back to the ranks. You'd be going back to being a private again as you just slumped your cause. You put them on the military crest, you will become an officer. And that's going to be the very simple thing. This is not the important point of this ridge. The important point is the military crest, where you're going to see that monument, where we see those three young people there. That's where the 16th Michigan is. As they move up there, we're going to take position to the 16th Michigan on the right center, Crazy Rice. Crazy Rice commands the 44th New York. And he's going to be of the opinion that he ain't as impressed with Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain as Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain is with himself. Then the next regiment is going to be the 83rd Pennsylvania. And they're going to be commanded by Captain Woodward, the senior captain. And Vincent is the colonel of that regiment. And on the far left will be the 20th Maine. More about them later. So he positions them up there, and that's not the position they're going to be. When they go up here, they're going to be in position here by the time the Confederates arrive. We'll turn it over here briefly to we get the Federals up here, turn them over to Jeff, and he can show you where the Confederates are going to first appear, and we're going to have to.
Are you looking for me? Yeah. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. The wind picked up and I couldn't hear you. What am I doing, Ed? I'm the rebel, huh?
Where the Confederates are first going to appear from.
Okay. If you look at the map, and it is again map 10, you're going to see down here, in this area right down there is Warren Avenue, okay? So you orient your map. You're going to see the 4th and 5th Texas and the 48th, 4th Alabama are going to come right through these woods here and right down these open fields in front of us across from Warren Avenue. Not very clear, but the 1st Texas, see where Smith's Battery is straight out here. 1st Texas is going to come through that open area, that brown field. That's going to be the 1st Texas, and they're going to go directly towards Smith's Battery. They're going to fight in the triangle field. To the right of Smith's Battery, as Ed pointed out, is the Orange Blossoms, the 124th New York. That's going to be the contest between the 1st Texas and the 124th New York. You'll also see the Benning's men get into this on the left of it. So Benning's men are going to come through these woods here on Houck Ridge against Ward's brigade also. They're going to not only come through the woods this way north, east, they're going to veer. Some of them are going to get tangled up in the fight against de Trobriand's men and, for instance, the 17th Maine until Anderson's Georgians come up on their left. And, of course, which we can't see, but this is the 44th and the 48th are going to go right down to around, as you can see in your map, by Devil's Den, and they're going to push back the 4th Maine. They're going to have to move regiments from one end of the line to support that. But over here, of course, is going to be the 47th and the 15th. 4th Alabama is going to be the 4th and 5th Texas are going to be the ones that are going to make the primary push. I guess you see it on the map. They're going to make it 2 times up this hill. They're going to be the ones that actually push the 16th Michigan out of. They drive them back, and they're coming up. And if you read the Texas accounts, you think that this is one of the highest mountains they've ever climbed in their lives. Really, they talk about it, but many years ago, our son is 41. I'm trying to count back. So we're talking almost 30 years ago, came down here with the Boy Scouts. I always thought it was stupid to one march. They march the whole way around, big round top, through woods. Well, we can do that anywhere. You know, but what we did do is we came out here, and I was much younger then, and we came up the face of the little round top, which you can't do. And I want to tell you, folks, it's deceptive, but that's steep. It's a lot steeper than you think. And so they're climbing up here, and they're talking about they're going to hide behind the rocks as they're coming up, and they're going to make this final push up here, and it's the 4th and 5th Texans primarily that are going to do it. While the other, this is how disjointed these brigades are, right? Look at the 4th and 5th Texas are here. The 1st Texas is over there. In between are Alabamians, and there's Alabamians over here. As I said, a lot of this comes down at this point to the leadership of the regimental officers. They're the ones that are leading the men in these fights. It's not even the brigade. So.
All right, we'll go to lunch, and then we'll pick it up when we come back after lunch. Going to pick up where we were. Now, we were standing originally up there on the crest of the ridge, and at the top of the ridge. Now, the 16th Michigan is down there. That's the color company there. They're on the military crest of the ridge. That would mean that Norvell Welch will pass officer candidate school. He had his men up here where we are, he would flunk out on the topographical crest. But we're going to have other troops arrive here, and they're going to be federals. And they're going to be led by Stephen Weed. Now, Stephen Weed is going to command a brigade in Ayers' division. And they're going to come up the backside of Little Round Top, just like the men of Strong Vincent's. And at the time they arrive, we're going to bring our friend Jeffrey Ward up here, and the Union position is collapsing at the time that Stephen Weed arrives up here. It's collapsing with the retreat and the breaking of the 16th Michigan, Norvell Welch. So he's falling back, and Weed is going to arrive. With Weed arriving, is going to arrive Hazlett's battery. Now, the senior battery in the United States Army is the 5th U.S. They were constituted before any other unit in the United States Army. They were the West Point Battery at this time. They'd been commanded by Stephen Weed before he was promoted to Brigadier General. They're now commanded by Charlie Hazlett. Now, Hazlett will go, and you see those cannons up there. Hazlett, when he arrives here, will go to Warwick and says, I'm going to bring 4 guns up and place them where you saw those 4 cannon up there. Warren says, no, do not bring them up here. Because if you bring your guns up here, they'll be captured. Hazlett will say, no, I'm going to bring them up here because we're going to have to manhandle them into position because I believe it will give some encouragement to our men. Because as we're going to hear, the Confederates are about ready to triumph. But in that fighting, as he puts his guns up there, Weed will be mortally wounded, Hazlett will be mortally wounded, and the Confederates look like they're going to win now. And we're going to turn it over to our friend Jeffrey, and then I'm going to, when he finishes his talk that looks like the Confederates are going to win, I'm going to talk about Patty O'Rourke.
Oh, you're going to talk about the good stuff, aren't you, Tim? Yeah, you're saving the dramatic stuff for yourself. Thanks a lot. No. One thing I want to mention, as many of you know, there used to be a building down there they converted into. It was a photography shop originally, converted into a bathroom. They leveled that and they opened it up. Well, I've been told that when Batchelder, and we were talking about this is John Batchelder's battlefield in many ways. He's the one that came here, September '63, started talking to the Union officers who were here, and he worked himself into a government job eventually. But anyhow, they said that he would stake off, put metal stakes in the ground about where it should be cleared, and that they say that there should be more of that woodland there cleared. Is that about right, Ed? The stakes in there, but they're not planning to do it again, I think, for money and something like that. So to get the picture, you're looking at the 4th and 5th Texas and the 4th Alabama, but they're coming right at us as they come out of the slaughter pen and drive up here, and they are going to cross up. As I told you before, in their accounts, and afterwards, like one of them, they said it was insanity. That's the word they used for us to charge these mountains. And this place took on this epic size to them. But they are going to come right up here, and let's think about where they started. Back there in those woods, where we see the trees, came across, got some of the fight down here in the slaughter pen, but they're going to push up from the edge of those trees to the right and over into those trees there, and they're going to push up, drive back to 16th Connecticut, and they're coming right up towards where we were, and they believe that they're on the verge of taking this hill. And of course they would, if it got up here, they would have been behind the 44th New York was immediately having difficulties with the 16th Michigan, I meant 16th Michigan being driven back, and the 44th flank was open to the attack by the Confederates, and they're driving up here on the verge of taking this hill. And then what happens, Ed?
To the same place that we came up. Weed has out in front of him the 140th New York, the Rochester Regiment, led by Patty O'Rourke, who was #1 in the class from which General Custer is the foot of the class. The second class from West Point on June 22nd, 1861. But he's got the engineers, he's gotten out the engineers, and he's leading. So when we arrived in the area about where Roger is, he had his men fix bayonets. And he decides he does not have time to deploy them from Alameda lines. And he orders a bayonet charge. And they're going to charge into just as the Confederates seem on the cusp of victory. Succeeding this round, they'll charge into them, and with club muskets, bayonets, and the Confederates, of course, have been fighting for about 45 to 30 minutes. They're tired. They're going to stop. And the Union right is going to hold, and Patty O'Rourke is going to lose his life. And when we go down to do the 60, go down to Gettysburg, we can go by it. And it has no symbolic thing that's supposed to happen good to you if you rub his nose. When everybody rubs his nose, you can see he has a shiny nose.
It's supposed to help a student academically. I've had many spend minutes there rubbing and it never helped. So, By the way, George Custer made the statement that the only positions of note in the class were first and last, and he had no aspirations to be first. So he ends up last.
Yeah. Any questions before we go down to Chamberlain Spur? Okay, we'll go. And he's pointing out where he wants Joshua Chamberlain to position the 20th Maine. Now, if this had been 5 days before, Joshua Chamberlain would not be here. He joins the regiment 5 days before they reach here. It is true he has a big regiment because he took a number of men from the 2nd Massachusetts, the 2nd Maine, that were under court-martial charges, and he adds them to them. Now, if you in the movie, his brother Tom is here. Tom is his adjutant, but John, a doctor, is at Gettysburg, but he's not with the regiment. I don't know why they put those damn things in the movie. But he's not with the regiment.
That's good.
And here is Strong Vincent pointing out, as Chamberlain remembered, where he wants Chamberlain to be, on the left. Any questions?
Is this the military?
All right, now Chamberlain is not planning to join. Only when Lincoln calls for another 300,000 men to serve for 3 years does Chamberlain join the army. That's in August 1862. And he is not the original commander of the 20th Maine. The original commander of the 20th Maine is Albert Ames, a West Pointer, a graduate of West Point, a resident of Maine. And he will command the 20th Maine up until after Chancellorsville. After Chancellorsville, he will be commander brigadier general and will be commanding a brigade in the 11th Corps. And Chamberlain will only then take over command of the 20th Maine. All right, we will go on. Behind that stone wall are Company B, 20th Maine, and a detachment of a score of sharpshooters. That stone wall is out there about 150 yards at a right angle to what I'm standing there, like this. And no one used to visit this until the 1956. A book appeared on the 20th Maine, and then everybody starts visiting this. Now we got to talk about these forgotten people, and we're going to bring our friend Jeffrey up here to talk. And he's going to be very close to winning, a lot closer than Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain would think he's going to be closing to winning. In fact, he's going to be a very narrow V before someone does something. And we're going to find out that Melcher and Spear are going to say they don't think Joshua Chamberlain gave that. If he gave the command charge, they couldn't have hurt him.
Yeah, well, they think, especially Spear thinks he basically lied.
All right, now we got Colonel Oates. Born in poverty, raised in adversity.
Yeah. Colonel Oates in the 15th Alabama is coming straight at us. Over there to the left, down there will be the 47th under Bolger, and they're gonna test both the right of the 20th Maine and the left wing of the 83rd Pennsylvania. What Oates starts to do, they bring an initial charge up, and there's probably 4 or 5. It's arguably debatable, but what he does do, and they do it in the movie well, he starts to shift. Then they're going to start to press this way. And this is when Chamberlain's going to bend the line back. They're up there by the left flank wall. You can see it over there. We'll go over to the left. We'll go over there, and I'll show you where it becomes a center dispute. Like Ed just mentioned, how far did the 15th Alabama get? And Oates is adamant about this. And when you see where he claims they got, it's not what Chamberlain says. But really what they do is they push him back, and they do push back the left wing of the 20th Maine, according to Oates. And that becomes the center of the controversy. But the fire is tremendous. You got, again, to remind you, these boys have marched roughly 24 miles to get here. They got up 2, 3 a.m. in the morning on the road. They got here. They don't look like any of the Confederate pickets at the beginning of the Gettysburg Tour. These guys are lean, mean, and they're hardened men. And then these two regiments are going to go scale Big Round Top, get up there, and Oates is basically running in the 2 regiment because he outranks Bulger, and they're going to come down, descend Big Round Top, and then get into this fight with the 20th Maine and the 83rd Pennsylvania. So they've seen a lot on this day already. If you ever read Glenn Tucker's High Tide at Gettysburg for the one of canteens or something, because remember when they got in line back there in Warfield Ridge, they were out of water. So they send a detail of men back to fill canteens, and the attack begins before these the canteen detail returns. So I mean, it's, you know, they've looked for a lot of ifs here, and that's one of the ifs. Well, we only had water in our canteens and things like that, and the other men. But the real fight's going to be centered eventually right along here, and yes, here. But here's where the push is, and also whether Chamberlain ordered the bayonet charge or not, this is where it's going to start, behind us. Okay. But any questions on the 15th Alabama? But well, as we go up here, I'll show you where Oates argues they got to. It's far different.
Now, Maine Man writes the definitive book about this in modern times. Stand tall, ye men from Maine.
Yeah.
And he's on Oates' side.
Yes. Yes. Now I just saw a newer account of the fight here. I forget his name. Wrote it. It's well written, you know, but he doesn't take that position because Oates is going to base his argument on where his brother was killed. And this guy says that's a different situation. But you would think that Oates would know where his brother died, you know, and not this, you know, and that's what becomes part of the public argument between the two. But as Ed said earlier, remember, Oates wanted a monument here, but there was a guy in the 4th Alabama who didn't like Oates.
I'll go into considerable detail when I say my talk tonight. Who is the real hero?
Oh, shut up.
Oh, you've whetted their interest.
Oh, okay. We're going to hear who the real hero was, right? Okay.
When did they repave Chamberlain Avenue?
What? When?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That used to be just dirt and gravel.
Yes. Well, I want to tell you, well, I don't tell you, before the movie Gettysburg came in, some of you probably come here. This was a narrow, you know, unpaved road. Today it's an interstate highway. You know, relatively speaking, it's because of all the people that have been coming back here since the movie. You'd walk back here and you have to watch out for the brush hitting you in the legs.
If you walk out, once the brush gets out, if you walk out to Company B in the stone wall, it's hard to find because there's so many volunteer trails out there. Yeah. I don't think anybody after the movie comes out ever goes out to Company B.
We're not going out there, right, Ed?
No, we're not going.
If you haven't, it's worth the walk.
Yeah.
Now, Marshall claims every time he went out there he got poison ivy, but credibility of Marshall is limited. But anyhow,
very similar to Chamberlain.
But I tell you why it's worth it. It's virtually unchanged. The stone wall's there. Everything. By the way, part of the 2nd United States Sharpshooters fell back there with Company B, and they're back there with them. And so when the Confederates start, they don't know this, and when they start retreating, guess who they're running into? Company B and the Sharpshooters. But it is one of the spots on this battlefield that's, I hate to use the word pristine, but it's close to it. It's worth the walk back sometime. It's best to do it in the fall or winter.
We had an hour and a half to do what we've got to do in 45 minutes. We would do it today.
Hasn't the terrain changed?
Yes, because of the road.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's shearer down through.
And that road has been paved since I've been here.
That's what they just said. When
Yeah.
they could have done it this year, I don't know.
Yeah, that's been paved this year.
So it wasn't for the 150th?
Dirt
It
road.
wasn't for the...
Ed, was it paved last year for the 150th?
Looks like it might
But
be.
I'm sure it was probably paid for the 150.
Yeah.
Good call.
They put a lot of money into here for that. And they'll probably be pretty lean here for a few years because of that. You know how they work it. But I know they
It
said,
was probably paid for the 150.
yeah.
Was there a road or a trail for Hazlitt to get guns up here? They just went
What was that?
Road or trail for Hazlitt to get his guns up.
No,
No.
no. He manhandles them up.
Yeah, between the trees and where they could, yes.
And not with the horses.
Mhm.
With their biceps and their powerful legs.
I think they got some infantry help.
Yeah.
They got infantry help from Weed's brigade, yes.
And he gets up there and gets killed. Okay, we'll go down to the 20th. Excuse me. It's the 15th out of the 20th Maine has now been forced back almost into a right angle. The color company up where we just were. 3 companies to the right of the color company. 1 company B down behind the stone wall, and the other 6 companies here. And we're going to talk about what Oates is going to say. Oates is going to be Jeffrey Wirt, and I will be describing both what Chamberlain says and what Captain Melcher says, and they're 180 degrees different. Melcher's remembrance and and Spear's remembrance of Chamberlain. Now, if you believe Chamberlain, you have to deny what Spear and Melcher are saying, who are contemporaries and outlive Chamberlain. So they're not going to. I'm going to give what their version is, and I will also give what Chamberlain's version is, and Jeffrey is going to be Colonel Oates, who is traveling with his brother and the color company of the 15th Alabama. The color company is an important thing to Batchelder on putting monuments up. Okay?
All right.
Take it over.
Okay, Oates and them, they come driving up here. And if you read the accounts, you know, and that's going to do with Chamberlain, Melchior, and Spear. By the way, Spear is the one, remember the movie with the big pipe? Yeah. That's Elliot Spear. If you remember him, he always was, well, never mind. But anyhow.
Kevin Brewer, was it the Irish guy Kevin?
Oh, he was fictional.
Okay.
Yeah, he was just totally fictional. Anyhow, they drive up here.
No, that's right.
Oates will claim, and that's where he wanted to put the monument that he was trying to do. You see this group behind us? The guy is sitting on a big rock. Oates claims that that's where they got. Now, if they got there, what they did, as Ed said, they pushed this wing back, and the 20th Maine was a narrow V. They're shooting that way, and they're shooting this way, and the 15th Alabama is driving them that way. And they said, well, why is it that, you know, there's a lot of rocks here. He said, that's a rock behind which my brother died. One account, the newer book I read, he says he died down on the other side in the swale area. But Oates that's his adamant, and that's what his argument was. I know Ed's going to go into why not, but he claimed they did push this wing entirely back and drove him back towards the other wing of the regiment. And they made it this far. And Oates is adamant about it, and also, we understand why. Look what they did. They almost were able to crush them and to secure this area. But they held, and then, of course, they receded back. They were driven back from this position, and they're down in this area here when Chamberlain and the rest of the 20th Maine is going to take over.
And now remember, this is an intrusion on the park. This road was not here. So that road and that stair step was not there. That was a slope there. That road was put in by the Army when they managed the park. That road was not there. It was originally a gravel road, and evidently before they sent the 150th. All right, let's go up here. I see the other people have moved out, and we're going to we're going to have Jeffrey be where Oates is going to argue where he wants his monument. It's not his monument, it's the regiment's monument, but he's raised the money. I was going into some detail on it when I talked tonight, and who's the real hero of the crowd. And you're going to see, I'm going to take about 4 people with me, and we're going to be Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. And you're going to see where Oates says his brother is wounded. I'll leave so people can be up here with me. Now that's the border. Now where is the left wing of the 20th Maine going to be? Get 2 people on my right and 2 people on my left. Right here. Leave a gap through there so we can see, everybody can see the stone. The old stone. And if you look over your left shoulder, see where the right flank marker of the 20th Maine is. It's right to my left, over my left shoulder. So, what Spear and Melcher's going to claim he's about where you are. Spear is going to be on this side of Chamberlain. They're first going to argue they could not have heard any command. There's too much noise for them to hear. Their argument is going to be, it's a serendipitous argument they're going to have. That the men are going to fix bayonets themselves without any order. It might be some private like you with your hands in your pockets. They're going to fix the bayonets that they could not hear Chamberlain ever give it an order of that type. And they do not remember him leaping forward out in front of them. Again, serendipity. Everybody else has sensed this is a time to move. And in their mind, Chamberlain is fabricating both his order to fix bayonets and is leaping up and leading the charge. Now, Chamberlain probably should have waited until Spear and Melcher had gone to the grave. But you gotta watch yourself 40 years after events and start writing. This is almost 50 years after the event. And you write it and you describe it as you see it. Reardon has a good book on it. It's how these men remember it. And they're remembering it different. And evidently they're fed up with Chamberlain's writing. Because they eventually will go in to this story that Chamberlain says at Fredericksburg. When they hear that, when they're hugging the ground about 300 yards out in front of the stone wall, Chamberlain is hugging the ground. What does he realize he's behind? A dead Union soldier. And in his story he goes on. He can hear the shade shutter on a building clanging, and it seems to say, no, never more. Now, he'd written that earlier. Melcher, Spear, and other people go, and they said, I don't think that story is true. I don't think Chamberlain was lying on the field there. I think he was down with Albert Ames in a nice warm house a considerable distance from where he's dreaming of this rather dramatic episode of lying on the frozen cold earth behind that. He plays it up big in that story. So I imagine you have to watch them because as anybody in the military knows, they're BS artists. Everybody remembers it as they want, and so that you have the views, and it's going to direct, and we will advance, and Oates will fall back, and then he will be hit in the keister by Company B and the U.S. sharpshooters, and they'll retreat up the mountain. Chamberlain will only follow him a certain way. And Chamberlain is going to say he captured Major Boulder. Not true. It's going to be Crazy Rice. Now remember, Rice is now the brigade commander. And he's going to say, our boys captured him, the 44th New York. Now is he BSing or is Chamberlain BSing? One of them is. Can't be both ways. How many enemies have I made? I gave this talk up in Brunswick one time.
You have to sneak out of town? That's it.
I didn't get tarred and feathered. Anything else? So whether you do it or not, the Union holds this position, and joined by the Pennsylvania Reserves. Fisher's Pennsylvania Reserves, only then will the 20th Maine go up and secure the top of Big Round Top.
What was Company B doing down there when all the other fighting was going on? Why did they wait until this grand dramatic moment?
Well, they were everything on skirmish duty. They had the U.S. sharpshooters were already out there, and they took position behind that stone wall out there, where they could press the right flank of the Confederate line when they advanced.
Part of that was Chamberlain didn't know where the Confederates were for sure, so he had to protect the left flank.
I understand why they were out there, but what I'm getting is this battle.
Well, yeah, but you're still looking at 100 yards and woods interceding and so forth. And well, he did a good job with them. And then once the retreat happened, yeah, they got involved.
Waited until the retreat happened to get involved.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you know, 3 or 4 years ago in the movie, the revolver, the misfired at Chamberlain, it was sold. They have the Providence for it, and I have no idea. You have any idea what it's sold for? But I'm sure it wasn't cheap because the Providence was cold on it. It was definitely the revolver that misfired at Chamberlain. It was sold.
Chain fire.
Okay, any questions before we go back to the bus? Okay, we'll go back to the bus. Now I'm Hobart Ward, and initially my regiment, left regiment, is the 4th Maine, and they're going to be up by that tree, and learning the Confederates are coming up Plum Run. Learning they're approaching 2 Confederate regiments of Alabamans. I'm going to tell Walker, get your men down here and block this route. Close any advance to the Yankees, to the rebels, up Plum Run, or the Valley of Death. And that's what they're going to do. So the Union line will then be anchored on the 30th, on the 4th Maine, like this. But then they will approach this position, and that's when they put the real pressure on Norval Welch up there. They're going to bring in, they're going to put a lot more pressure on him, and we're going to be in that situation that he's going to have to be bailed out by by the 140th New York. And we're going to walk around there, and he's going to commit these guys under rock betting, and these men under at Polly Robertson, particularly the first Texas and the third Alabama. We're going to stand there and talk about he's going to get a lot. He's going to be the lead there when we're fighting the fight for the triangular field. Then we will go down and walk down into the Devil's Den, into the wheat field. Any questions? Now we're going to, because we have a big group of almost, Brady is up here with his crew, particularly Gardner and Sullivan. And they love these pictures of dead people because they're very popular in his exhibit halls, either in Washington or his New York office. And here, it's so it gives an idea. The rocks are pretty much, when they rebuilt the rocks and placed them here, they've done a pretty good job of reproducing what they looked like at that time. So we're up here now on House Ridge, and the Confederates are going to be coming, which we were never able to do before. So our friend Jeffrey is going to be able to give you name and verse as the Georgia Brigade and 1st Texas and 3rd Arkansas come across those fields there in front of us and cross Rose's Run. And we're going up here and put Jeffrey in the highlight spot, because I'm just going to be standing there as the 124th New York, the orange blossoms, and be shooting Confederates out in front. So we'll go up there and stand with the 124th New York, and we're going to have Jeffrey talking about what's going to happen when the Confederates enter the triangular field. Any questions?
They call it the slaughter pen, which we just were. The 1st Texas and 3rd Arkansas are going to veer, and they're going to head for Rose's Woods. They number about 950. The left wing of the 1st Texas and the 3rd Arkansas are going to enter the woods down here. The bulk of the 1st Texas, and those two regiments numbered about 950 men. Compared that to what Ed is going to be, there was roughly 240 officers and men in the 124th New York. Now they're supported by the 99th PA, 2 other regiments up here we're talking about. Anyhow, the 1st Texas, the bulk of them are going to come through this field, and they're going to come charging up the triangular field, and they're going to reach that stone wall down there. It's about 3 acres, folks. About 500 feet on each side is the size of the triangular field. So they're going to come under fire from Smith's Battery, which Ed said was probably right up there. The Texans are going to charge. Smith is going to give the order, and I will read them. This is what Smith says to his gunners. Give them shell. Give them solid shot. Damn them, give them anything. And they will load that, and they'll start to fire canister. One of the interesting fellas in all this, and I don't know which one, but I'm going to guess. His name was Private William Barber. Barber was one of Hood's couriers. He had ridden in this area earlier, so he joins his buddies in the 1st Texas. His horse is killed from under him, and by all accounts, what Barbie does is he gets on a prominent rock. Now, if you look down there, that seems to be about the most prominent rock out there. I'm not saying it is, but it seems to me that could be a likely candidate. He gets up on the rock, and this is in the midst of this fighting. And the guys that are wounded, but they're not badly, but they're wounded, they're laying beside him, they'll start handing rifles up. By one count, he's shot 25 times. Then he's hit. he's knocked off the rock. He gets up again, crawls up in the rock, and they start handing rifles back to him, and he keeps firing at the 24th, and the gunner's up here. He's hit a second time. This time he's knocked down. He's laying on the ground. He starts to get up, but he's laying there, and nobody will help him back up in the rock, and he starts cursing everybody. So this is somebody's spirit. So the first Texas drives up here. They're going to push up. Up here are the orange blossoms, and they are ordered. All they can do, you got to save these cannon. This is what they're coming for. 3rd Arkansas is going to come in here on the left. The rest of the 1st Texas, they're going to engage with the 8th New York and I think in the 20th Indiana, because the 99th has been pulled out of line to plug the gap down here behind to help the 4th Maine out, and they're going to be pushed aside too. So they come up through, so 238 of them, 240 numbers. They're going to be lined up here. They're going to charge down here, and they're going to counterattack. They're going to stop the Texans. Of course, the Texans recoil. They drive them back. 124th New York regroups, drives down for a second counterattack. They will make one more count. They will make 3 counterattacks, if you will, trying to stop the Texans, but they can't stop them. Because Benning's Georgia, and I think it's the 2nd, the 15th, the 17th, the 20th Georgia, they're coming through Rose's Woods. They're going to hit the Indiana New Yorker boys over here, and this position comes completely untenable, and the Texans are going to drive up, and they're going to capture, as Ed said, 3 of the 4 cannon. And as one of them said, in a rather, of course it gets poetic here in a sense, but he said, Sergeant George Brainerd of the 1st Texas carried the flag in front of the line. And this is what is written. There he planted the adored standard of the Texans, adorned with a lone star, shining far off to friend and foe with the effervescence of its glory. In other words, he planted it right by the cannon, and of course they got away with one of them, but the 1st Texas and the 3rd Arkansas held this. Benny's men are going to sweep over, and they're going to clear this ridge and drive the rest of the 3rd Corps troops back over down through the valley there and to secure this position. But this is heavy. I think the orange blossoms, I think I have the numbers here, but I think they lost in the neighborhood of about 160 men out of the 240.
We'll lose Major Cromwell. They're going to make 3 charges. He probably led the 2nd charge. He's mounted, and they drive the Confederates back across and out of the field. They reach that lower stone wall. But Cromwell is shot now. And when the Confederates come back the 2nd time, and then there'll be a 3rd time. Now, standing up there is on the monument there is the colonel of the orange blossoms, the 124th New York, Colonel Ellis, and Ellis has been a 49er. He's going out to California. He's a lawyer. He's a failure as a 49er. He learns that the King of Hawaii, which is independent at that time, is looking for an admiral of the Hawaiian Navy. He goes there and he finds out it's a figment of the imagination. So he comes back, and Ellis will be the colonel. And then when he'll lead the last attack of the 124th. He'll tell his men, will you let the enemy have our body of our major? No! Huzzah! Huzzah! And they're going to charge, and Colonel Ellis will be killed in this charge, and then back by the Georgians. And of course, when they seize Elk's Ridge, they're going to be able to put more pressure on Little Round Top. As the Confederates now hold the Devil's Den. They hold the lower part of the Valley of Death. They hold the triangular field, and they pivot and start northward, advancing through Rose's Woods. On the other side of Rose's Woods, you're going to debouch into the wheat field.
So they go from one bad
What?
place to another bad place.
Yes. And but they're going to, when they go there, the Union Hancock is now intervening. He's been ordered to commit his old division. His old division is commanded by a man of slight ability, Brigadier General Caldwell. It consists of 4 brigades, and they're going to commit them piecemeal. First, the brigade commanded by Edward Cross, who is a real favorite. We'll talk about him more. He commands the 1st Brigade to go in, and he was also the commander, had been earlier in his service as commander of the 5th New Hampshire. That's a regiment you don't want to be in. Throughout the war, they'll have the most KIAs of any Union regiment. KIAs, of course, is what you don't want to be, because that's finality to your military career.
Dangerous to the house,
Any questions?
What
Now
time
we're
of
going
day?
to walk to the Devil's
What time is
Den,
this?
to the wheat field. We'll
Wait a
I got a
minute,
question.
question.
What time of day is this? Ed, what time?
What time is
What time of day
it when this battle takes place?
All right. If Longstreet attacks around 4 o'clock, we're now after 5 o'clock. We're moving between 5 and 5:15.
And we got light till what, 8?
We're going to, since they don't have, they'll probably go to about 8 because they're not on daylight. They're on sun time.
But Longstreet will say 3 hours of the greatest fighting troops ever did, so you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of that 7 to 8 time frame that he was referring to. You know, you could say, well, when did they, does he mean when they stepped out, or does he mean when they became engaged? So you're looking at that.
And
Probably
what
closer to
Longstreet
8.
is saying, they're going to, in essence, make orders to combat 4 brigades of Hancock's Corps, that are in Caldwell's divisions. They're going to beat up badly 2 of Ayres's brigades, 2 regular brigades, and they're going to seriously, Confederates are seriously going to maul Weed's brigade. They're going to beat up on Schweitzer's and Tilton's brigades, and they're going to pulverize Vincent's brigade. So you can see they're working over not only the 3rd Corps, but they're working over the 2nd Corps as well.
And 5th.
Yeah, the 5th Corps. All right? Hancock is not happy with Caldwell. So they've now already made a decision. The Union has committed the 5th Corps. All the 3 divisions of the 5th Corps have now been committed to stopping General Longstreet's attack. They're now going to commit a division of the 2nd Corps. This is a reserve division, and they would be camped in near the area where the Pennsylvania Monument is. They're in reserve, and Hancock will send a message to Caldwell and tell him to move his men off. And it is a critical moment. Hancock is going to tell him, move each brigade when it's ready to march. He's not going to wait for the entire division to move at the same time. So they're going to be committed piecemeal. And that's a thing you're not supposed to do, but it's an emergency. He will commit them in this succession. The first to move off will be Cross's brigade, including the 5th New Hampshire. The second to move off will be Zook's brigade. The third to move off will be the Irish brigade, less than 700 men in it. very under strain. They only have 6 companies of the New York regiments. 2 companies each from the 63rd, 69th, and 88th. So they're going to have less than 800 men, because the 153rd Pennsylvania is going to be a big regiment with them. So they're going to, and then they'll finally commit John R. Brooks. Brooks' men will go the furthest. They will go as far as the Rose House. Now Caldwell has a very high, Hancock has a very high opinion of Cross. Now Cross has a feeling that this may be his last battle. Normally Cross, you would think he is a Hell's Angel, because he normally tied a red handkerchief, silk handkerchief around his head. But today, he feels it's not going to be a good day. So he's going to tie a black silk handkerchief around his head. And as he goes off, to lead his men forward, Hancock will see him and he'll yell to Cross, "Colonel Cross, this is your last battle without a star." Cross will answer, "This is my last battle." And near this spot, Cross's regiment will go as far as they're going to go. They're going to run in. He is the 5th New Hampshire is the left flank regiment in Cross's brigade, and they're going to run in to these people. And we're going to hear what these people are going to do to Colonel Cross.
Oh,
Besides,
okay. Couple things. My interest is not to care that much, but just to make a point. Some of you can always tell us. My interest began when I was 10 years old. I had an elementary teacher who knew the Civil War vets. For some of you, you never heard of the 1950s, but I was living then. But anyhow, and he told us their stories. They were Company A of the 148th Pennsylvania. Their monument's right over here.
they were going to be on the right.
Yes. They hated Edward Cross. On the march north, and I told you about the hot days, there was a lot of straggling evidently throughout the Second Corps, and that, Cross was such a strict disciplinarian, he arrested the lieutenant colonel of the 148th. And if you read their accounts, even in their history book, one of their 2, 3, or whatever of them, if the Rebs don't get them, we're getting them. We're going to shoot them, okay?
Which is Beaver in?
That's it. But Beaver was wounded at Chancellorsville.
Okay,
so
he's not here.
it's Robert Farland.
Okay, good.
He's the
I thought you told me he was in that, but I did not.
Yeah, that's Beaver's regiment, Beaver Stadium, right? Okay. So they come in here. Also, now, Ed, I would, until recently, and I'm not going to, there's a new biography out of Cross. I read it in manuscript. According to him, it wasn't that he had a premonition of death, even though he wore a black bandana. He was fed up with the Army. And he was such a fiery guy, as Ed says. What he meant by saying, "This is my last battle, I get through this, I'm going home. I've had enough of it unless you give, he wanted to be promoted." I mean, you know what he did at Antietam and all that. That's the other argument.
He wounded badly. He
Yes.
kept coming back.
He kept coming back. That's the newest argument and what his words meant to Hancock. Coming at it, where Benning's Georgians swinging through here, and they're gonna meet this brigade. They're strung out. Well, part of the 148th was in these woods. The rest were in the wheat field. You'll see their monument as we walk around there. The 5th New Hampshire is all here. Benny's men are going to come right at him. They're going to engage him, and they're going to mortally wound and kill Cross right around here, right? Yeah, that's where they put it. And Edward Cross is killed. If he did not mean a premonition of death, and if he did not mean, of course, he hadn't meant a premonition of death that was fulfilled. If he meant he was leaving the Army, we may not have, because Hancock would have seen to the fact that he was promoted to a brigadier general. So we don't know. But he was shot in the front, so it wasn't any of my ancestors who shot him. Some of them might have. I don't know. I will tell you one of them, though. In the 148th in Company A, he got down in one knee out here in the wheat field. and started shooting in the air. And the sergeant came to him and said, "What the hell are you doing?" He said, "I don't want to hurt anybody." So he kept shooting in there. So it's fully, it's in the regimental history of what, so you always have this. But it was Benny's Georgians that are coming through. Remember the 2nd, 15th, 17th, and 20th Georgia swinger. There might have been some elements of the 3rd Arkansas pulled into this fight, but it was primary. And Benny's Georgians are going to go down towards the Stonewall too before Tidge Anderson's Georgians come in there, and that's where they're going to enter the fray down here by the Stonewall.
So is Benning the guy who Fort Benning is named after?
Yeah,
Yes, Rod Benning, Henry Rod Benning.
I mean, that's the damnedest thing. We've got more military bases named after Confederate generals than we do.
Are you going to build a military base in World War I or World War II in the South?
You're building it
for a Yankee. The election, you better not do it. Marshal, take them down to the parking spot. Send them down to the parking spot. They're not going to board them here.
Send them to the parking spot, the parking lot. Send them to the parking lot.
Take them down to the parking